Hello and welcome to Seize the Day, Live Life Your Way. I'm Jenny Proctor from Boomer's Next Step. I help people to live their lives the way they want to live it, with purpose, fulfillment and fun, designing their lifestyle and activities according to their own unique way of thinking and being. It might sound corny, but I really want people to recognise the song that's in their heart and have the courage to sing it. The Boomer's Next Step tagline, Seize the Day, Live Life Your Way, obviously the name of this webinar as well, was chosen because that's what I want baby boomers to recognise that they can do, that we can seize the day and live life the way we want to live life. There's a bit of a preconception around, I suppose, an old way of thinking, that our only options as baby boomers, as older workers perhaps, is to work and work and work. And when you reach the appropriate age, or when unfortunately something happens at your job and you have to leave, or redundancy occurs, whatever it is, you then decide, well, it's time to retire. Sometimes, as I said, the decision's been made for you. And what many people do is then spend the rest of their years hoping that they're going to die before their money runs out. It's just a very, very limiting and limited option. There are so many more things that can happen in your life. I have worked for many years with older workers as a career counsellor and coach. It wasn't always older workers, but they were the people that I was drawn towards working with. What I found, though, was so many older workers who'd been trying to get jobs ended up with a lack of hope and a lack of purpose and feeling like they were old and useless. Another group that I regularly met with in my practice was people who had reached a point where they'd been doing things for many years, perhaps in their own business, perhaps in employment, but through circumstances that were, I'll say, beyond their control. I guess there were choices that they made that put them there, but it wasn't where they were planning on going to. That they reach the end of their traditional working life and recognise that they don't have enough money to live a comfortable life in retirement. And many of those people are seeking something else to do. Many of them feel a sense of fear. What on earth? How am I going to manage this? Am I going to be really poor and destitute? Or can I do something about it? Many of them are quite bitter or annoyed, perhaps at the circumstances that got them into this situation, sometimes with themselves, sometimes bitter or annoyed with other people. And all of them tend to feel a bit overwhelmed and confused. I really don't know how I managed to get into this situation, but I don't know what to do to get out of it, and I feel like there's no hope. Both those types of people, both those groups, have a sense of disillusionment, a sense of being untrusting of ideas that come up, confused about what to do and not knowing. They've spent their life kind of feeling like adults who knew what they were doing, and suddenly they're in this really important situation where they just don't know what to do. They don't know who to trust. And that sense of being sort of wary and mistrustful is something I come across quite often with people, where they say, yes, but, these things might be more dangerous for me. They might be more risky for me. And the other thing is that both the groups are absolutely hammered by media reports about older workers and how older workers can't get jobs and older workers get overlooked and there's ageism in the workforce, etc. All of which, I hate to tell you, is actually true. But the point is, it's often not the reason why they're not getting the jobs. Often the reason they're not getting the jobs is not because of the attitude of the people who saw their resume or interviewed them. It's from what their resume conveyed, what it communicated to the person who saw it. Or in an interview, the way that they presented themselves. I don't mean as in not being well dressed or something. I mean as in not having a forward thinking way of looking at the world and at the job, and open-mindedness, an ageless kind of concept. So from working with older workers, with mature workers, in my career counselling practice, Clarity Career Management, and also Career Clarity, I have found more and more that it's a group of people who are just very, very confused about what to do next and not clear about what their options are. The reality is that most of us, if we're very fortunate, have great years ahead of us. Most of us are fairly healthy and we're active and we are living our lives to the full. We have good, full relationships and friendships and lives that are in many ways much freer than they were when we were at an earlier stage of our lives. If, like me, you were raising children, etc., there were many years when you couldn't go and do the things that you wanted to do. And yet so many of us are still feeling that sense that, well, here we are. Now we've got this bit of freedom. We're really keen to achieve more and do more and be more. I'm still me and you're still you. And the 20-year-old or the 30-year-old or the 40-year-old within us is still itching to achieve other things. So are you prepared to get sucked into that vortex of older workers, older people can't do things, or are you prepared to step out and say, this is who I am and I'm damn well going to live my life the way I want to? Boomer's Next Step, the blog site, came into my life about maybe 18 months ago. It was a site that had been in existence for some years in America. And then there was a little period of time when someone else took it over and unfortunately did awful things to it. So it's taken me a while to get it back to the point where I'm really happy with what's on there and I'm happy and proud to share it with the world. My aim for Boomer's Next Step is to constantly be showing people how they can live their life their way. I think of myself now as a transition coach, somebody who is helping people to make really smooth and wonderful transitions. Sometimes it's from employment to new employment, from employment into their own lifestyle business, from employment into a really fulfilling retirement, or sometimes it's from employment or retirement into their own lifestyle business. Because sometimes, I hate to tell you, people retire and it's actually not all that they thought it was going to be, and they come back looking for something more to do. So within Boomer's Next Step, both the Facebook page and the blog site, my aim is to create a forum for really strong, capable, intelligent, interesting people who are determined to live this part of their lives in their way, whatever that happens to be. And for most people, that means making some sort of a transition to get to that point. In order to be able to live life your way, there are about 7 really crucial questions that you have to ask yourself. Who are you? What do you really want to do? Are you aligned? What's your purpose? What activity makes your heart sing? What's your why? And how's your mindset? And we're going to quickly look at each one of these things. The first one, who are you really? I think, like me, probably most of you have many different hats that you have to wear. You might be a partner and a parent, a daughter, a sister, a brother, a friend, a colleague, a next door neighbour, a caregiver. There's so many different roles, part of different community groups. Within all of those roles, whilst we can be very true to ourselves, we sort of play a different part slightly. We aren't completely who we are in every one of those roles. And it's really important for us to recognise what is absolutely at the core of who we are. First of all, our strengths. Have you taken time in recent years to really consider what your true strengths are? What is it about you that makes you absolutely unique? Where's your hidden genius? Where's your genius that other people actually rely on? It could be to do with something as that you take completely for granted, like perhaps being very empathetic, or it could be your communication skills. It could be something like your mathematical ability. It's important to recognize what it is about you that makes you really a special individual person. So I'm asking you, if you truly want to live life your way, to spend a little bit of time thinking about this. The second one is your core values. That's a really interesting one. Ask most adults what their core values are, and they'll say, oh, honesty, integrity, blah, 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 authenticity. They'll say all those things. But when you really dig down, a core value means that nothing will get in the way of it. It means that you are compromising yourself completely if you go against that core value. So let's look at the one of honesty. Consider yourself a very honest person. But if it came down to having to lie about something in order to save the life of someone in your family, which would win over? Your core value of love and relationships, or your core value of honesty? If you start asking yourself those kind of fairly dramatic questions about your core values, you really do boil it down to what are the things that matter to you most in life. What are the things that are absolutely not able to be compromised? Because you have to know those if you're going to plan to live your life your way. Purpose is something that we're going to look at during this particular webinar. So I'll just leave it there for you to think about, but it's an important part of recognizing who you really are. And finally, your flow. When do you lose yourself in things? When does time just disappear and you're so in sync with what you're doing that suddenly you realize that an hour has passed or something? That's when you're in flow. The next question, what do you really want to do? Sounds like a question you'd ask a 17-year-old, doesn't it? And yet we evolve constantly, and constantly that answer is different. And for us at the stage of life where you are looking at a transition as a baby boomer, as somebody in the sort of 50 to late 60s age group, the question is, what really matters to you now? What do you really want to do? Talk about work. Now, there's a good one. Friday afternoon, ask someone, well, what do you want to do about work? And the answer for most of them will be, oh my God, I just want to retire. I just want to get out of it. Can't stand the place. They're tired, they're cranky, etc. Is the answer to that they really want to retire? Or is the answer that they're just sick of work that day? Maybe they're sick of work overall, but maybe it's not work they're sick of. Maybe it's the situation they're in, the people that they're surrounded by, the stresses that they're under. So it's very important to actually think about these things, not at a superficial level, but go down deeper. If you think that it's work that you want to give up, paid work, I'll challenge you to think about this. Do you never want to receive another paycheck again? Possibly the answer is no to that. Do you never want to bring in money again? Question. Do you want to not be involved in something that is say of economic purpose? You really have to dig down and say, how do I really feel about work? Sometimes, for many people, from my experience, they actually want to get away from being tied down to employment. They'd actually like to do something for themselves. And that's not everyone, but certainly a lot of the people who come to see me are in that position. The next thing is the lifestyle. How do you want to live your life? That is actually a far more deep question than it appears to be, because we kind of keep on going doing what we have to do for so many years, and then you get to the point, I know in my case, we got to the point where suddenly we were empty nesters, and we went, if as empty nesters, we really don't want to live here, we want to live somewhere else. It wasn't far away, but it was a move. And it involved us having to really examine that and say, well, do we want the lifestyle that's in that particular place? Are we still going to want that in 10 years' time? When we decided the answer was yes, we made the move. Sometimes when you're considering what you really want to do, you need to look at what you don't want to do, and that can help you. So back to that question, particularly about work, really nail what it is that you don't want about that situation you're in now, and that can sometimes help you to recognize what you really do want. Overall, and I would say this for any age group, any time, if you can align your true self and the work that you're doing, whether that's voluntary work or paid work, whether it's your own business or employment, and your dreams or your vision for the future, if you can get all of those things in a line, then you're going to get to where you want to get to. If, however, they are not aligned, if perhaps your work and your vision for the future might be aligned, but it's not congruent with who you truly are, then it's not going to work. So this is our goal, to align our true self, our work, and our dreams of the future. I mentioned before about your purpose. Your purpose is your desire to fulfill your highest, truest expression of yourself. So the question I ask you there is, what is your personal contribution to the world? Have you made it yet, or is there still more to be made? Is there still more that you can do? So that's looking at the positive side of you. What are your great strengths and your great gifts that you can use? If you look at the other side and you say, what's life taught you? And that sometimes comes out of the really worst things that have happened in your life. You know, what have been the absolutely awful things that have happened that have taught you lessons? Because from those, it's like a little gritty bit of sand in an oyster. From those can come the greatest pearls of wisdom and the greatest strengths. So I want you to look at your positive side and the negative parts of your life and say, out of those, does that give you some indication of your purpose, of what you can truly achieve, who you can be and what you can be in this world? I took this photograph in New Orleans some years ago when the local team had just that afternoon won their way into the Super Bowl. And Americans are very passionate about that, I discovered. In New Orleans, everyone was out celebrating in the streets. And in the midst of it all, it started to rain, and people were scurrying to get in under shelter, except for these two who just were wandering down the street, dressed like this. Who knows, were they always dressing like that, or were they on their way to be stars in theatre? I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that they just exuded to me the most wonderful sense of being true to who you are. They were obviously a couple. They were laughing. They were gazing into one another's eyes. They were smiling and talking as they walked down the street. They didn't give a hang what anybody thought about how they looked or where they were going or what they were doing. They were a little world unto themselves. And so I've put that photograph there because it always reminds me, to thine own self be true, as Shakespeare said. Who are you at the core of you when you're doing things? That's not very well expressed. I'll say it again. What is there that's completely missing in your life? What activity? What thing that you could do that makes you feel like you are being completely true to yourself? In my case, it's music. I recognized not so long ago that I was missing music in my life. It had been a very important part of my life for many, many years. And for about the last 10 years, there's been really no element of music in my life beyond listening to it. And so I joined a choir, not just any choir, but an a cappella chorus, which is, if you know something about music, extremely challenging. And it's the very challenge of it that has made me wake up to who I truly am. It's like it's ignited something within me that was always there and that just needed to be reminded that it was there. It puts me in flow. I forget how long it's been that we've been working on the songs, except that my feet get very, very sore standing for so long. But other than that, it's usually the feet that bring me back into focus of what's going on, because I'm so in the flow. I had a beautiful client the other day who told me exactly the same story about art. She'd recently gone back to doing art after years of being away from it, and just found that when she started working in her art, she just lost sense of time. She became truly, truly a peaceful, wonderful version of herself. This doesn't have to mean you're hugely talented at the thing you do. I can assure you I'm not doing too well with the singing at the moment, and according to this lady, her art wasn't too wonderful. It's not the output that matters. What matters is that you're doing the thing that makes your heart sing. Now, what does that do for you? It carries over into every other part of your life. It gives you an energy that you don't get from doing the washing, or unless maybe that's your thing. It's not mine. It gives you an energy and a sense of self that enables you to look at all those other questions that I've been asking you about who you really are and what you really want to do. So if you're not doing something currently that truly is making you feel like yourself, can I suggest you start thinking about it and actually get involved in something like that? Because it truly will make a difference to how you're feeling about your life. The next slide is about your why. Simon Sinek, who has a great website, and I think it's called First Find Your Why, and an excellent TED Talk that I really suggest you look for on YouTube. He says, don't quit. You never give up trying to build the world you can see, even if others can't see it. Listen to your drum and your drum only. It's the one that makes the sweetest sound. It's all about recognizing why you're doing things and then getting on and doing them. I put this photograph there because it's my little eldest granddaughter on her second birthday. And to me, that photograph just epitomizes just being in your own little bubble, listening to your drum and just living your life according to what your drum is telling you to do. Most 2-year-olds are like that most of the time, I know, but to me that photograph captures it. If you can regain that sense of being completely who you are and listening to your drum and your drum only, you're going to find that life will become so much better. Now, your why is deeply digging into, why do you want to do things? Why do you want to make a transition of some sort? Why do you want to either keep working or not keep working? Why do you want to start a business or not start a business? Why do you want to choose the things that you're choosing to do with your life? If you can possibly come to that why, it will carry you through all the difficult times. It gives you that driving force for change. And what might your why be? It could be as simple as, I want to be able to leave some money when I die to make it a bit easier for my kids. It might be, I want to be able to make a major contribution to some charity I truly believe in. It might be something completely selfless, like I want to be able to help an orphanage in a town in Cambodia where I spent some time, or something that really gives you a driving sense of, this is why I want to do things with my life. For many people, it's something as simple as, I don't want to die before I prove to myself that I can do it. Or it might be, I just want to feel that sense of personal fulfillment to know that I have achieved something. Your why will be intensely personal, but without it, it makes it harder for you to move into the next stage. Napoleon Hill said, whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I'd ask you to consider your own mindset about all of this. If you are going to make a transition, you need to be able to have that vision of where you're going. You need to believe that you can do it. Not believe that you have to believe other people can make changes too, but you have to deeply believe that you can make a change, that you can make a transition, that you can change your life. So I ask you, are you stopping your own joy? Are you stopping your own fulfillment? Are you getting in your own way? If you've conceived of an idea of what you really want to do you truly believe it? And if you truly believe it, do you believe that you can achieve it? Our options these days are absolutely so vast. When I left school, and probably when most of you left school, our options were fairly narrow. In the school that I was at, the options that were kind of presented to us were, teacher, nurse, secretarial studies, or become a nun. And don't know too many people that went for the last option. But the options now as kids leave school are just so absolutely vast. It's too overwhelming for most of them. Most of them get very confused, and this is why so many uni students start one thing and change several times, because they really haven't been able to get their head around the vast options that are available to them. I'm going to narrow our options as baby boomers down to 3 sections. Within those 3 sections, there are millions of different ways that you could articulate it. But let's just look at 3 main options just to get you started. First one is to get a new job. Now, maybe you're working now, maybe you're not. Maybe you're fully employed, maybe you're happy, maybe you're unemployed. Whatever it happens to be, getting a new job still boils down to the same 3 elements that must be undertaken. You have to know where you're going. There's no point in just saying, I want a job and not knowing what exactly it is, because that's going to come through in any communication you have with the people that are employing. You need to be very sure of the direction you're going, and your resume needs to very clearly articulate what direction you're taking yourself in and how you can best contribute in that particular area. The people who are looking at the resume want to know immediately that you are someone who can meet their needs. If your resume doesn't show that, they won't even bother reading it. Most people need some help with that. The final thing is the hidden job market. A huge proportion, well over 50% of jobs that occur happen, or employment that occurs happens because somebody has heard something from somebody. It doesn't mean jobs for the boys. What it means is that the person who perhaps is looking for work knows somebody who has heard that there's a possibility of work coming up at a certain place. And so they get themselves in front of the employing people before they've had a chance to actually advertise the job. Or a job's been advertised and somebody knows somebody who's within that organisation who can put in a good word for them, so that their resume actually gets read. Doesn't mean they get the job, but it does mean that if they've done the other key elements properly, that they're at least in with a chance. It just boosts their chances. So I ask you to really find out about the hidden job market and how you can actually make that work for you. If people tell you just to go on LinkedIn That's good advice, very good advice. But just going on LinkedIn, you might as well just go outside and call out from your front yard, I'm looking for work. Actually, that might be more helpful because your next door neighbour might hear and know about something. If you go onto LinkedIn and you just put up your information there, you're not actively networking. You need to actively be using LinkedIn to actually make it a difference there. Fabulous if you are actively using it, but just putting yourself on there doesn't do anything much for you. So that's option 1. Option 2, most of all important for option 1 is ignore what people are telling you about older workers not getting jobs. Make sure that you know the right strategies, because if you know the right strategies, then you're improving your chances very greatly. The second option is just to retire. A lot of my friends have now retired. A few people have questioned me about why I haven't yet. The answer is I'm not ready to. I don't feel like it's the time yet. There's still so many more things. There's still some more songs in my heart that I want to sing. We all know that we need to be well planned and have the financial security behind us to retire. It's too late to think about that now, and certainly way outside my brief of what I'm doing. That's up to you to sort out with your financial planner. But lifestyle planning is something that I'm passionate about. You cannot retire and just go, woof, I'm retired today now, let's live a life, unless you've given some thought to it. Lots of people think about their location. A lot more people plan where they're going to travel to, and, the trip around Europe or the trip to around Australia or something. They put more effort into that than thinking about how they're actually going to live their lives when they get back. And many people find themselves in retirement moving and then not having too many friends or being isolated. It's a big picture that you need to look at. If you're going to move somewhere, how are you going to make sure that you make new friends? How are you going to join? What groups are you going to join? What activities are you going to take up so that you immediately have new connections, new acquaintances who can become new friends? If you're a couple, have you sat down and seriously discussed how you're going to live together as a retired couple? For many, many years, you've probably been in a situation where you've lived fairly separate lives through the week. And it comes as a bit of a shock when suddenly you're together 24/7. So all these kinds of aspects need to be considered. And for many people, taking time to actually plan their retirement lifestyle is going to make a big difference to their happiness in the future. The third option is a favourite of mine, and that's lifestyle business. And I guess in a sense that's what I'm developing. I'm increasingly choosing when I will work and when I won't work, when I'll go on holidays and blocking out periods of time for family commitments, etc. It is a growing trend. Why has this changed? Because technology's allowed it to. I'm doing this webinar dressed very casually in my office at home, and in 15 or 20 minutes I'll be going off to swimming lessons with my grandchildren. I'm not standing on a stage fully made up and speaking to 1,000 people. I'm simply speaking to you through my home computer. This is something that you couldn't have done 10 years ago. When I first started my business as a career counsellor, I was looking at all these kinds of things, but they were hard to do. You had to have a lot of knowledge of how to make a website. Things were much more technical. You needed technical help to do a lot of things. Over those 10 years, it's just become so much easier. The software just makes it easy to do so many of the things that in the past we never would have been able to do. Imagine 30 years ago trying to communicate, one person trying to communicate with the number of people who will watch this webinar, people throughout the world who will watch this webinar. It would have been impossible. I would have had to be a celebrity. I would have had to have been on television and being streamed into people's homes to have the same impact. Yet tomorrow you could be sharing your message or talking about your business to anyone, anywhere in the world. So this growing trend made possible by technology enables people to make money at a time when perhaps they're not employed. There's so many different ways in which you can make money using the internet. And this is, talking to people I'm not making any money out of what I'm doing right now, but there are so many businesses that do make money through the internet and so many styles of business. It's something that a lot of people decide that they want to bring in extra money in their retirement years or in early years when they've perhaps been made redundant and they still know that they want to keep working, but they really don't want to just go back into an employment situation. Most of the people who do this sort of thing I'll call it a lifestyle business because you can pick and choose what you want to do and do it when and how you want to. They still want to have an economic purpose. They want that challenge. I can't imagine that I would be really happy at the moment if I didn't have some challenges in my life, some challenges that said, today I'm going to do something a bit different in my business. I love reading books. I love swimming in my pool. I love seeing my friends and all that sort of thing. But I still want that little bit more of an edge of a challenge. Do you? Is there something there that's still there for you? And also the financial and lifestyle freedom. My hope is that when we're on an overseas trip later this year, that my business will be able to tick away without me being here, that I'll have somebody just keeping an eye on things for me, but that I'll be able to still communicate with people because I'll have products and webinars and that sort of thing set up to go out to people while I'm traveling around Croatia and having coffees in Paris and lovely things like that. So this is a growing trend. If it's not one that you've looked at, open your mind to it. It is something that I know, as I've said before, a lot of the people that I see have reached a point where they're fairly cynical about things. I'm not talking about anything here that's make yourself rich quick sort of scheme or somebody's going to rip you off scheme. I'm talking about you using your own strengths, your values, your flow, your personal attributes, your skills, your experience and your knowledge, and perhaps just putting another layer of skills and knowledge on top of that to be able to create something that you actually want for yourself. So have an open mind about that one. So they're just three very, very general options that I've shared with you today. Getting a new job, retiring, or going into your own lifestyle business. I would love you to communicate with me about all of this. I'd love your questions or your comments. This webinar will be put onto the Facebook page. It will be on the blog site. So boomersnextstep.com and on the Facebook page, just Boomers Next Step. If you go onto those and put comments, it will not only enable us to have a conversation about it, but it will also show me where you are needing to have more information. It'll show me what you're needing to hear some more about. So as I create more of these free webinars, if I know what you're needing to hear about, I can create the webinars to answer those very questions. Or we can, you can contact me and speak with me directly. I've got 2 email addresses there for you to contact me on the website, phone numbers and that sort of thing. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to have that communication happening on the Facebook page or on the website. Thank you so much for being part of the webinar today, and I do look forward to catching up with lots of you at some stage. Bye for now.